So Mohit, he's a Bangalore boy. He did his engineering at PES. In his engineering days, he has registered many domains, one of which was ultrahuman.com. And the biggest auction bid for that domain before he started Ultrahuman was $1.8 million. So just for the record. Uh, maybe we can just drop the mic right now and leave. But he and his co-founder were college mates, and since then have known each other. But started working together. Co-founded a company called Runner, which got acquired by Zomato, and worked at Zomato for a couple of years, and then came back to doing Ultrahuman together. I always have this call in my. I share this with a lot of founders that every time I open the app store, I feel very sad that we are just the Mao and Dao factory of the world, but we don't have any world-class products which are built from India for the world. And hopefully we get there soon. And Ultrahuman is the bet, is my horse that I'm betting on. Primarily because I'm an avid user of Ultrahuman. I've used Ultrahuman for a very long period of time. I think everything Ultrahuman does is very well thought through, backed in science, and I don't know what is it about Ultrahuman that makes it feel. I was just telling him that I want to meet the designer of Ultrahuman because it almost feels like Johnny Ive type products. So I'm here today to have a conversation to learn everything about the journey, the thought process, the team, especially because I think when you're building a product which is at the intersection of hardware, software, and AI, you have to have a very different product building capability. You can't make the same mistakes of A/B testing like we do in the software world. Cycles are much longer. There's a lot more at play, especially because you're in health. You can't have people rely on that information to make very sensitive choices. So just very, very keen to learn a lot. To set the context for everyone, because few of you are Ultrahuman users, I'll ask a few questions just so you guys understand the scale of what Ultrahuman is for the rest of the conversation. Maybe Mohit, we can start by you telling us how would you pitch Ultrahuman to these folks, and I'd love to understand. Maybe we'll start with that and then I'll ask some follow-up questions.
All right, thank you so much. So Ultrahuman is a health monitoring platform, and what we measure is something called passive health. So essentially, what we really want you to do is to live your life, and we'll actually measure and understand how you live your life, how your biomarkers change, how your human biology changes with your lifestyle. And we do this through a bunch of devices, essentially. So a glucose monitor or a device on the finger, and there's a new one coming, which is a device in your room. It's called Ultrahuman Home, and there's more to come. So yeah, that's what we do.
Awesome. The hero product, at least for me, was the ring. How large is your team?
125 people overall.
How many markets do you serve?
I think majorly, some 38 markets, but then ship across like 106 markets. Yeah.
So 3 people take care of 1 market, guys.
Yeah. I mean, we can ship anywhere in the world right now.
Awesome. How many PMs do you have?
2.
What do those 2 PMs do?
They, apart from basically cursing me, no, I think
That is every founder's point.
No, I think specifically the 2 PMs do a cross function of design, data, engineering. They sometimes write a lot of code and scripts themselves as well. But generally speaking, what we've been trying to do is how do we get people who are more cross-functional in life? So because the type of people that we interact with are sometimes going to be scientists, doctors, athletes. We started working with a few Olympians. You guys would know about Paris Olympics. So we have like this pool of Olympians that actually use the technology, and they're going to basically, we are betting on them to actually win, and of course it will be great for us as well. And so yeah, we feel amazing talking to these people, and when we talk to these people, we think that we should, because we come from a different background, we need to have the right to talk to these people in some ways. Like in terms of when you're talking to a doctor, you need to understand the concepts of, like in case of, let's say, a diabetologist or a endocrinologist, you need to understand the basic principles of endocrinology and how basically your pancreas works, your islets of Langerhans works, and all those things basically. And we want to pleasantly surprise them as well, saying that, like, look, we're not just here because we believe in computer science, but we are from science, right? So हम science की तरफ से हैं. So
Awesome. In our conversation, one thing that struck, you said even today, you get about 800 or 8,000 or some emails.
800 emails a week.
Yeah, he gets about 800 emails a week from people that write to him, either giving him feedback or asking questions or clarifications or refunds or whatever that might be. And he personally answers every single one of them. So how do you do that? Why do you do that?
How? Okay, I think the method has evolved. It initially used to be that initially we didn't have users, so it was easy. We just used to pose like a great company answering emails, even like we are a big company, but we just have time. But now I think we do have users, and I think for me, I reply to every email. So for me, I think the thing is, it's Saturday 7 a.m. till 10:30 a.m. and then Sunday noon till 2 p.m. basically, approximately, is what I block. And typically it's 5 espressos, and then I get into this sprint of just writing like emails. Getting the rhythm helps basically. But I write 800 replies essentially. Most of them are just like, okay, many of them are like two-liners as well, which is like, yeah, somebody says, love the product, amazing, thank you so much, thank you for helping us out, etc., etc. But then some of these users like write like really long emails, like they're like really descriptive. I'm sure, like, I don't know why, but yeah, like point by point. So you have to reply point by point. So I think um, I think I've leveraged this tool called Superhuman a lot more while being running Ultrahuman. Yeah, but no automation. So I read every line. Yeah.
Has it helped you?
I think it helps develop instinct. Okay, the reverse of that, the weeks I have not done that, I just feel that I'm not doing enough, like personally, for the company. It just feels like I'm just driving too much of what's called Gyan strategy, but not having ears to the ground. But the weeks I do that, I just feel that I have a lot of contextual information about the company, which I can talk about and feel smart. Yeah.
Feel smart. Has it, you told me this incident about, bringing on Walmart as one of your customers, retail customers. And that happened because of serendipity of somebody writing to you on an email and you responding to it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane.
So context being, so Walmart is, I think we are the first Indian electronics company to ever get listed historically at Walmart, which is weird.
Wow. Congrats.
And which is both good and bad because they never had like an onboarding form for India. So basically, they had to create an onboarding form for an Indian entity, apparently, because they're an Indian entity essentially. So out of the
Amazing.
1 year that took, like 3 months took because like somebody took time to create that form, like some PM. So yeah, like 8 fields, that's it, right? So they didn't understand what GST means, for example, right? So some of those things. But yeah, it was an email from someone with a signature where something like there was a Walmart logo in the signature, and I was like, oh, this sounds interesting because obviously you get good at stalking people over time, right? As you age, so like pseudo stalking, understanding people and their persona. So I figured maybe this guy is interesting, and I obviously searched on LinkedIn. Obviously found that this guy is a buyer at. So with these retail companies are buyers basically, right? So the buyers are people who decide what's in the store, okay, and their judgment more than anything matters a lot, because of course, like, you're bombarded with data. Like, there are thousands of companies in the US trying to sell you that, oh, take my product, take this product, take that product. Why would they pick your product? So that judgment matters a lot apart from data, because essentially, like an investor, they're taking a bet that this company
Correct.
might grow, right? This is a unique product. This is a company, not just a product, because
Correct.
they will evolve the category, they will introduce new features, etc. So initially, when the person wrote, like, basically said, like, look, this is, I am enjoying the product, but I want these fixes in the product. And what we did was we actually made the fixes.
Wow.
And the person was
Faster
surprised.
than they created the GST form.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, 100%. And this guy's like, you do follow up on the emails somehow. How do you have so much time? I was like, yeah, because you're small. Um, but yeah, that happened, and then of course, conversation kept going on. But I think again, the power of serendipity. We wouldn't have even imagined that we would either get discovered or we would reach out to a buyer at Walmart and make this happen. But yeah, this is just one of the many examples. I think just being able to reach out to people has helped us a lot. I mean, hiring has been a big one. A lot of people who have written to us, we end up hiring them, and they've been like people who have driven the company to where it is right now. And also, I think in the last round, one of the investors wrote to us saying that they want to invest. Like, many of these folks, I think, just having this, I don't know, this hack, which is just replying to every email, has helped us a lot, is what I could say. Yeah.
Are there some other principles like these that you follow that has helped you where you are today?
We have a concept internally. I don't know whether this is totally appropriate, but
Don't worry, everything that gets discussed here stays here.
ठीक है.
It can be inappropriate.
We call it something called मज़ेदार लोग. Basically, हमें मज़ेदार लोगों के साथ काम करना है. ठीक है? तो we don't want overtly critical people in life, right? How do you, like, for example, if you have a friend keeps giving you ज्ञान, right? Oh, this is not good, that is not good. आज AC ठीक नहीं है, आज पानी अच्छा नहीं था, मतलब ऐसे, है ना? Some people are like that, right? I mean, they're smart, they're really smart people, but they like give too much criticism, etc., right? But you want a lot of optimism as well in life. You want to wake up, everybody's telling you can't make it, and then you show up in office, and then you want more like positive energy. And sometimes it's delusional as well, but थोड़ा delusion चाहिए life में, right?
Correct.
So थोड़ा delusion वाले लोग जो, I mean, they don't basically, they're on this line of being real, like as real as you would want them to be, but then like they are positive in life, they're happy, they essentially don't crib so much. अगर the food in the office is not great, they'll be like, हाँ ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं, startup ही तो है, all that stuff, right? So those are the people that we generally want to work with, is what we have actually figured out. Because, and the reverse of that has also been true. So we have had like phenomenal people, like really smart people. So I'm not discounting that there could be other people who are like extremely smart, they have like great view of the world, but they would be like so critical, man, like in terms of like everything, like, oh, this this thing is missing in the product, so looks like this will go down the drain. So or basically, I walked in and the chair was squeaking, so we have to fix this ASAP. So I think though generally, like, we want to work with like people who are like just like your friend group, right? It's your safe place. You go to your friends and you can talk about anything, right? You can crack jokes, sometimes inappropriate as well. So that's the kind of people that we want to work with. That's, I think, it has evolved as a hack. So initially we never had this filter. So basically sometimes we used to hire really smart but painful people also, है ना? कि मतलब ये तो बहुत painful आदमी है ना? High maintenance basically. So then we stopped कि बहुत attention चाहिए उसको, या फिर basically बहुत smart है, ज़्यादा smart है, इतना smart नहीं चाहिए, है ना? तो optimal smart चाहिए, है ना? मेहनती optimal smart आदमी चाहिए, because that's who we are as well, right? I mean, as
Correct.
people, ज़्यादा smart नहीं है ना? But so I think that's
He's just being very humble.
so that's what we started looking for, because you're playing as a team. right?
Correct.
You don't want a star opening batsman just taking all the limelight. You need a good, like basically opening batsman. You need a basically a third batsman basically, and then basically like the middle order. सब कुछ चाहिए ना
Correct.
basically. Need to people to work like a team. Yeah.
What does it take to build a hardware product? What are some nuances? I bet there are multiple when it comes to, especially because in Ultrahuman world, there's hardware layered with software. And I imagine that software moves much faster than hardware does.
That's true.
And very counterintuitive, which I didn't know, and maybe you guys might not find it counterintuitive, but you have a factory right outside Bangalore.
Yeah.
Most people's hardware gets manufactured in China or somewhere else.
Yeah.
How did you decide to do it in Bangalore?
I'll address the second one first.
Yeah.
Then. Yeah. Actually, we didn't decide. We were mid-COVID. So, and I had a friend who actually ran a hardware startup based out of London. So I called him up. I like, you guys are running a hardware startup. Tell me how this works, right? I mean, tell me the blueprint. And he said like, look, we like right now it's totally messed up. So I can't tell you what's happening. Like what happened? Like, look, our inventory is completely locked in China. And the only way out to ship orders is to send people with backpacks who can take the devices out of the factory, put it in backpacks, and then ship it via some third-party Chinese courier, etc. Because DHL was also non-functional back then. Overloaded, not functional. Yeah, and that sounded crazy because we were like, even if this guy was doing like some $150 million in annualized revenue, it's an established company, 85% revenue wiped out, basically. And that felt like this is too much of a risk. That was point number one. B, we also spoke to a Chinese manufacturing company and we told them that this is what we want to make. Can you help us make it? It's like, amazing. We'll give you the product for X dollars. And then we said, oh, we need iteration every month. And then they said like, look, this is stupid because if we iterate, then the cost is obviously going to be higher. So give us the final product and then we'll give you the right price. So we said like, if we can't iterate on the product, then we don't have a right to exist in this industry.
Right.
Because in the next 2 years, somebody is going to have a much better product which will replace us, and then all this effort is gone. So because of these two reasons, we thought the third reason was mid-COVID, everybody was like, everything is destroyed, सब बर्बाद हो गया है ना, कुछ नहीं है दुनिया में, सब खत्म हो गया है, मतलब companies exist नहीं करेंगी, है ना, and YOLO, investors will also बस survive कर जाओ, बस जिंदा रह जाओ, बहुत बड़ी बात है. So this lack of expectation from people, I think is a superpower. If nobody expects anything from you, especially money, amazing, है ना, तो nobody expected any growth from us. लगे ठीक है, चलो अपने मजे करते हैं, ठीक है. तो हमने इलेक्ट्रिकल इंजीनियरिंग की किताब खरीदी, वी बॉट द बुक, मैकेनिकल इंजीनियरिंग बुक्स, वी स्टार्ट स्पीकिंग टू ISRO guys in Bangalore, ex-IISc guys who did manufacturing for defense basically, and said कि चलो let's try this from first principles, if this works out. Turns out it worked out. It didn't feel like that. The first month was like we made 5 devices successfully, and we were like, "Ye to fir then we are too stupid." Second month was like 25 devices, and then of course like now we make 18,000 devices a month.
Wow. And now he's here to set up a second plant right next to it.
Yes.
Wow.
So now we are trying to. So I think we realize that now our cost is not just competitive but actually better than manufacturing in China, because with iteration, see, if you have a finished product, China is any day better, like today, because they have efficiency at CNC level, polishing level, something called PVD level, etc. Everything is like sorted in China. But if you don't have that, actually, if you don't have a finished product, you would want to learn all of these things and iterate and improve and basically do iteration every week. You can't have that in China.
Do you think that is the reason of scale and growth? Or
I think that has been the reason why we were able to fix issues more proactively, I guess, and also to develop an instinct for the product, generally speaking. So both product people and engineering people in the company, they don't today shy away from writing, let's say, Ruby code or Python code or even C++ code. Of course, like C++ code is harder to write sometimes because of memory constraints, and you have like a limited ROM, etc. But then it's not like something that is impossible. So I think that has been incredibly helpful. Yeah.
Wow. You're now trying to set up a factory in the US, or
We are setting up a small factory in the US.
which is also so counterintuitive. I feel like everybody in the US is not doing it in the US and going somewhere else.
So mathematical rationale is we spend around $48 in shipping and logistics. So our BOM is less than that, basically. No, our BOM is comparable to that. So we thought that if we optimize shipping logistics and are in the US, it's also like net delivery to the consumer is better, basically. B, we were able to automate a lot of processes at the factory. So essentially build machines that build the devices, essentially. Yeah, so when we started, we had 118 to 20 contractors making these devices. Now we have 55. So we have reduced in terms of number of people, but increased the scale over time. The remaining set of folks, we have actually moved to this process called QC, essentially, which is something that we have still not automated. So our QC is completely manual right now. Every device gets checked, etc. So I think that is the final. I mean, we want to be a company that actually is a long-term place for people. So when we think about automation, we think that we have to find a different role for people. So my personal goal is that if we get us in a scenario that we never get to fire people, that's actually the best company ever made. I mean, the financial outcome is one of the outcomes, right?
Correct.
But then, just being a long-term place for people is also helpful.
Awesome. What are some, tell us a little bit about sort of through this journey, what is it that were some counterintuitive insights for you? What have you learned from it? And maybe what are things that people can apply in their day-to-day as they build products?
So I can try to tell a story about our initial growth, because initial growth is one of the hardest things to do. Like, you have a product, you believe that you have a good product, and then you want users. So how would you get users? So we were our first product was actually a glucose monitoring product called Ultrahuman M1, and I remember doing a tweet thread about it. I had 300 followers, which is like embarrassing, but I interestingly got like 200,000 people to join the wait list, the link that I had provided in the tweet. And that was interesting because I wrote a lot about the science of why glucose monitoring matters back then. And we wanted to open up the waitlist to people naturally, right? Because revenue, right? And users. One thing that helped, and this was an insight from a team member in the company, one of the engineers, was that just like you hire mazedar people, you need to have good people like using the product. We can't have like people who write on their Twitter कि indigo.com is like fraud, है ना, मतलब सब बर्बाद है, क्लियर ट्रिप में रिफंड नहीं किया, है ना, तो वैसे लोग चाहिए, पॉजिटिव ऑप्टिमिस्टिक, है ना, मतलब ऐसे कि मतलब मार्चिंग टुवर्ड्स विक्ट्री, सुबह उठते हैं मतलब एकदम हाँ, cheerleader sunshine in the bedroom ऐसे वाले टाइप लोग, है ना, तो कैसे ढूंढने? तो again stalking as the core capability of life. So we took,
If used productively.
huh?
If used productively.
Yeah, if used productively. So we used to take Twitter handles in the waitlist form, and of course we said that we will not open it up to everyone. We'll open it up as per our discretion. Just to be clear. So we went through the first 12,000. Actually, we went through 25,000 and filter out the first 12,000 people who are positive in life. ये अच्छे लोग हैं. इनको product मिलेगा तो ये use करेंगे. अगर if they want to give feedback, they will write about it, but in a balanced way. And many of them actually wrote about it. They wrote us emails, but they were not like, "Acha, ye to scam hai. This is a scam, right? This company should not exist." not that extreme, basically, right? So I think that helped us a lot in the early days, because just by having those positive people in life, uh, it's helpful. Yeah.
I agree. Especially in India, I was just, a few days ago, I was just talking to some founders, and we were all discussing how it's very hard to be honest on the internet. No matter what you say, the more popular the founder is and more popular the company is, the more number of replies are just customer support tickets.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if Vijay Shekhar Sharma is going to talk about Paytm shareholder results. He will still have people, like threads of people just responding of how they didn't get a 5 rupee refund or Paytm didn't work for something. And it's just soul crushing as a founder to go and like discuss anything on the internet, because the only thing you hear back is people complaining about something, and that's very, very hard.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. Having people who appreciate the science and the effort that's gone behind the product, and give you constructive feedback
Yeah.
that can help the product go farther, is definitely rare. So as you went through this journey, what are some of the lessons that didn't work for you, and like what did you take away from that?
Yeah. So in 2021, um, so we had raised a Series A-ish type of round, and actually no, early 2022. Um, just after pandemic, market was booming, and I don't know why we raised, because there was like interest from the table. We had cash in bank, but then we raised because people wanted to give us money, and then everybody was telling us, ki, look guys, you're behind. You devices and all chodo, do something in content. And we also were like, yeah, makes sense. Content over time, cost, एक बार content बना दिया फिर तो मजे ही मजे हैं. Monetization है उसके बाद, right? So that's what we did.
I paid for that content by then.
Cool. Positive, optimistic people in life. So, so, so yeah. So then some person told us, "Kacha, you need to have good DAOs and MAOs, and DAOs and MAOs का ratio अच्छा होना चाहिए, and उसके बाद फिर then you'll get more funding." It's like, हाँ सही है, makes sense. And that then we chased that. And someone said, नहीं revenue when छोड़ो, अभी DAOs MAOs बढ़ाओ, do something, this unique thing called performance marketing, which you should do, right? It's a skill. So we started doing performance marketing for a while, and you should do influencer marketing also. So we did influencer marketing as well. All of that was bullshit. So that 1 year was like completely useless, basically, in the 4-year journey, 4.5-year journey. So completely useless. We just like.
Why do you say it was bullshit? It works for a lot of people. What did not work for Ultrahuman?
It didn't work for us, as what I could say.
What was your thesis on why it didn't work?
I think when you, just like hardware or a piece of software, you build something, you want to iterate and make it better. You have to have the ability to iterate and make it better, and then it compounds, right? That's what the principle of building is usually.
Correct.
In performance marketing, you iterate, you get to a stage, but then there is no longevity. At least for us, there was no longevity, which was like, if I stop pushing in ad dollars, would I still get traffic tomorrow? The answer is no. From those channels. That was number one. Second is, this is something that we could not validate, but then over time we were able to get some hints of these that, I'll tell you the hint. Our users didn't want to click on ads. They're like, we are too smart. तुम ads करोगे हम skip कर देंगे, ठीक है? तो everybody knows how to skip ads, right? So
Starting 5-year-old.
starting 5-year-old, and we are trained on this behavior of skipping ads कि यहाँ पे right side में bottom में button होता है. So we realized कि we're dealing with smart people, so we can't like just give them some ad and they will buy, right? It's too good to be true. And we looked at, just I think we were chatting about this, looked at our cohorts for people who we acquired through ads. And by the way, ads are incredibly good to raise capital, right? So basically, put $1 million, raise $5 million. बहुत सही है, बढ़िया scheme है. But the cohort was terrible for us, at least. it was terrible because A, I don't think we had the talent to optimize it. B, I don't think there was longevity in the people that got acquired through ads. So we took this hard call कि हम ads नहीं करेंगे. And
कितनी गाली पड़ी आपको?
बहुत गाली पड़ी. Actually वो जो first of all some people said कि ठीक है कोई बात नहीं. I think we don't want growth. ठीक है. Few people went on holiday, and including me. We're like ठीक अब तो growth करने की जरूरत ही क्या है, तो main channel ही चला गया. So now we can think about long-term growth, which is going to come in 2025. Right? बहुत दूर है अभी तो, मतलब long-term company
ठीक है, बाली चले जाते हैं हम.
हाँ, let's enjoy life. But one call that we took was we'll only invest money in compounding channels. So YouTube is a compounding channel. So we started working with YouTube creators to give them the product, and you write about it. Two things. If you don't like the product, even then you should create a video about it. So when we said that to people, generally people are nicer in life. Like, अच्छा ठीक है, you're telling me not to write to talk about bad things about your product, I will not do it. Like नहीं करो, लेकिन नहीं मैं नहीं करूँगा. So because reverse psychology. And they were like, no, fix the issue. We'll talk about it. I would have said कि अगर then please don't do it. They'll be like, okay, I'll post it. So we did a lot of YouTube. We I think make 250 videos a month. We actually give 600 to 700 people our product every month. 50% of them actually buy it. 50% of them don't buy it. Okay. And basically they post their reaction video on YouTube, like, but long form. So basically 15-20 minutes, 30-minute videos, not short videos basically.
Correct.
And
Explaining the product.
Explain the product, and generally we have a criteria that you should have used the product for 1 month, because before 1 month you won't even understand what the product is about.
Correct.
So that has been incredibly helpful as a channel, because we still get demand from like videos created 1 year ago. Then blogs have been incredibly helpful. So written content, because
But what are the core principles of all of these channels? I'm sure you have some underlying sort of principles that you apply everywhere. Maybe like explaining the science or honesty, or what are some of those principles that have worked for you?
I think YouTube is very different, but apart from that, newsletters and blogs, essentially, what we've figured out is that just not selling the product is incredibly helpful. You just have to be good at that article or that blog or that newsletter. You don't need to upsell your product. And whenever you have upsold a product, we have done it a few times, it's never worked. People just see it through. You'll just see it through. It's visible in data. People just see it through that we are just trying to promote our own agenda here. Yeah. So I think that's been a big insight. And second is, I think people who write content, we wanted them to go beyond business books basically, and just basically working with third-party writers. We wanted them to, like the internal teams, we wanted them to get educated about science. So actually read computational biology or basically bioengineering or everything else basically, right? So because generally we started with saying ki, look, we had an internal team, like a person who would manage blogs. They would work with an external specialist, and then the external specialist will send something and the internal guys will QC.
Correct.
We said like, look, that's like, the problem is if that guy is good enough or better than what you guys can do, then basically those guys deserve to build a better company.
Correct.
Right? At least in terms of getting that traffic. But that's not true. They're outsourced and they are an agency, or they are a group of people, or they're an independent creator. So what you need is to be as good as who those guys are, and for that you need to read science books. It's good. Like,
Correct.
Philosophy is amazing. Psychology of money is amazing. You can read novels, tweets, etc. You can feel smart about it. But then ultimately, the science is science.
Correct.
Microbiology is microbiology, right? So I think a lot of that was helpful.
Do you guys do education about a topic inside the company? Like, I imagine everybody needs to have a common denominator across science that you're building.
Yes. So what we measure, there are two things that we do. One is we measure our adoption within the company, which is how many people use the product within the company without being nudged. Because we have their email IDs, company email IDs, and we have inform people that basically when you use the internal product, use the company email ID. And whenever we see a drop or non-adoption of a feature, that's a strong validation that this feature is not going to work. Because if our people who have built the product don't like the feature, users are never going to like it. First of all, like a strong filter basically. So that's what we measure. I think right now we are close to like 88%
Wow.
of people who use the product on a daily basis. It used to be like somewhere in the 60s, and then we basically improved the product over time, and then people started buying it for their own relatives and family members. That's what you want to be, right? Basically, something you create, you want your relatives, your friends to use as well. So that was one, and second is I think it's an effort, but we're trying to promote reading culture by having science books in office. We have a library. You can everyone who visits the office can borrow a book basically, and read in return, like anybody. I think usually read science books, so 4 to 5 a month, approximately, but ongoing, like not with a lot of focus. Yeah.
So going back to what were some other sort of as you were building this product, I imagine there's a lot of responsibility given that it's a health product. People make a lot of sensitive choices based on the data they read. How did you know you were doing it right?
Yeah, we had a science team, like basically folks with medical and biological sciences background essentially, initially guiding us, and now they're a part of the company. And I think generally speaking, because we're in the wellness space, we were like quite far away from the risk profile, except the one that we're releasing right now, which we are going to talk about. There's one.
Yeah, tell us more. This is a great segue. What are we releasing?
It's unreleased right now. It's going to.
Okay, guys, it is unreleased. You're getting first dibs.
Yeah. So we're releasing our first life-saving technology. Basically, it's called AFib detection. Have you heard of AFib? Anyone? Atrial fibrillation. Yeah. So essentially, AFib is linked to heart rhythm. Essentially, so weeks and months before your heart, basically, you're going to have an incidence of arrhythmia or a heart attack or a stroke. Your heart rhythm could actually be off, right? And generally, I think you would have heard about it in terms of like Apple Watch promoting it by saying like, look, if you're feeling anxious and like sort of like feel irregular beats, you just put your finger on the ground and you can record something called ECG, right? The problem with that system is that it is an on-demand system. It's almost always too late. Essentially, it's like once you have a problem or a symptom of a problem, you go there and then you record, and then you take it to a doctor, and then you basically get it processed, and then the doctor potentially puts a Holter monitor or ignores the result, basically. So what we realized was that this has to be passive. Like this has to happen weeks and months before, because see, arrhythmia and cardiac damage, once you have any incidence of that, then it's hard going back to normalcy.
It's
Right?
irreversible almost.
It's kind of irreversible, right? And you have to live a different life after that. So early detection is key, basically, and passive detection is key. Like you can't ask the user, "Acha, you're feeling anxious, take the reading," and then you actually take the action. So what we did was, I think it took us almost like more than a year actually to devise the world's first AFib detection technology on the smart ring. So what it does is, and we have a small advantage there, is that during your sleep, it takes up to 3 readings of heart rhythm and basically tells you whether your heart rhythm is normal or not. And if it is normal, all good, amazing. But if it is not, then what kind of arrhythmia or basically heart rhythm disorder we are looking at. So we detect around 26 kinds, which are like almost 99.9%, almost 100% of all the disorders. So this is that's why we call it life-saving technology, because
So it's something that goes into the ring?
yeah, it's a software upgrade.
Okay. So anybody that's already using the Ultrahuman ring can just get access to it.
Absolutely, it's a software update, and I think there are 2 ways to not die, right? One is to prevent.
One is being mazedar.
One is being mazadar. That's yeah, being mazadar, being preventive, etc. But then the other way is to actually prevent these incidents, because cardiovascular events like are highly unpredictable, unfortunately, right? Because the way your chambers of your heart and your wall behaves is, even if you have conditioned your heart and your VO2 max is pretty high, there is a little bit of probability involved in each one of these. So you might have totally non-calcified arteries, but even then, basically you might have like a high risk profile, given the fact that you might not be as conditioned for certain kind of heart rhythm disorder. So essentially, being proactive there was one area we wanted to actually solve completely. So we call this tool is a part of the core capability called Power Plugs. It is essentially a tool of plugins that we're launching on the ring. So essentially, in the future, we could have like hundreds of such capabilities on the ring just from the ring data. Another one that I could talk about is something called ovulation detection. So for women, ovulation and basically the number of days around it marks fertility, and then that is what we're detecting via this marker called temperature, because we measure temperature continuously. So that's another kind of power plug that's actually going live.
Very nice. So as I'm guessing that more of this iteration is now happening on software compared to previously that was happening on hardware. Is that true?
There's a lot happening in hardware as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think some of you should visit our manufacturing facilities.
Can I get a pass?
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to host you guys at our manufacturing facility. We are working on anything from basically a perpetual battery or a perpetual energy system fueled through your body heat, essentially using a Peltier mechanism that uses the differential of your outside temperature and body's temperature and then charges the battery. Because the batteries that we use are 22 milliampere, we could generate a current that is like strong enough to maintain your battery life, essentially. So that's an example of a new technology. So generally Peltiers exist, but curved Peltiers are first in the world. So what we have invented and patented is the first curved Peltier in the world. So that's an example. You'll also see the first curved PCB assembly system in the world. Basically, it's a robot. Yeah, and so that's going in our production automation. So those are the things that you will see in progress. I think in terms of hardware pipeline, there is one device going live in the first week of August. It's called Ultrahuman Home. It's a device you can keep inside your home. It measures things like humidity, light exposure, basically things like your pollution levels in the room, noise levels to detect apnea. Heard of apnea? Yeah. Like snoring is a marker, but then apnea could result in multiple forms, could show up in multiple forms. So those are the things that we're detecting on the device, and we have something called on-chip ML. So the ML is actually in the box; it's not in the cloud. So essentially, all your data is private.
Wow. So what does it take from a product building perspective? Like, what does a product cycle look like? Let's say you wanted to launch this software update on the ring. Walk us step by step from idea to like making it live.
I think so. We like follow like a classic Notion-based roadmap, and then we basically do a little bit of a sizing exercise, which I realize at the end we don't give a shit about. But generally, we try to think we are scientific people. We will do like some kind of exercise, but then we have a roadmap. We what we try to do is we try to do a little bit of what we called as motivation check, which is basically when we discuss this with our group of engineers. Some engineers were like, ये तो boring feature है, ये अच्छा है but मेरे लिए नहीं है, something like that. So motivation is a key factor, basically, because people also want to feel good in life, right?
Correct.
And then there is obviously business impact. So whenever we want to push on business impact, you could just be um, like a bad guy and basically just push people and like, please ship this. But then every other scenario, basically, it's I think usually driven by like, oh, I would love to release AFib technology because it could save lives. I will do this, or I would love to work on women health and do this specifically. We do a lot of narrative telling internally as well, basically, or storytelling internally before
Who
we
does
actually.
that?
I think like the two people in product, and there are few engineers who actually are really good at narrative telling, like to the extent that they do reverse narrative telling to me. Basically, we should not do this or do this. They're amazing at narrative telling. I keep learning from them.
Give us an example.
Example.
Where they discouraged you to do something.
content was one great example where they basically planted the narrative that we are being too stupid by listening to the market and not listening to our hearts or listening to what we want to do in life. Like they're like कि ठीक है मतलब फंड रेज तो हो जाएगा, ठीक है बहुत से बहुत क्या होगा, हम कंपनी नहीं रहेगी, हम लोग पैसे नहीं होंगे हमारे पास, but at least you will die with glory. So so when someone says that, you just want to do good thing in life, right?
Yeah,
So,
you
good thing.
definitely want to die with glory.
Yeah, like हाँ ठीक है चलो कोई बात नहीं, let's die with glory. So so that was because of an engineer. It's not because of us. We were delusional. We're like हाँ new term sheet is coming because Dow Mao is improving, and one of the engineers said like look, this is bullshit. I don't use the product myself, so why would I like build this? That is the narrative that one engineer drove, saying I need to use the product on a daily basis to feel motivated to be in this company. If I'm not using my product that I'm creating, I know B2B SaaS is different,
Yeah.
but sorry guys, but I need to be motivated to see my interface every day, not feel like Dilbert and sort of like ship things, right? So yeah.
That's awesome. So you start with a narrative, you know, have a motivational check, you have a roadmap. I'm sure there are things on the roadmap that don't get shipped.
Yeah.
And there are things on the roadmap that take longer to ship than they were supposed to. How do you maintain firstly, what is the typical duration of a sprint?
So typically we have like the classic 15-day sprint, but
15-day in a hardware company?
because of software sprint basically.
Achha, okay.
Hardware sprints are much longer.
Correct.
Hardware sprints because of injection molding takes 45 to 60 days. Like it's a different cadence. We can't really run sprints there.
Okay.
So we run like basically different kind of product management there, which is driven
Sorry
by.
for all the dumb questions. I know nothing about the
No.
hardware world, so tell me more.
We're still figuring out. So basically, hardware to maintain motivation, because even things like packaging is so hard to iterate upon, right? It's so the cycles are much longer generally speaking. But software, we follow a classic 15-day sprint, and we generally deliver like 70-75. We don't deliver 100%. But here's what we did this year. We did something called Mayhem in this year. Basically, Mayhem was our annual sprint. Basically, so we got all the engineers from all over the world, like basically to be in one office next to factory. Everybody was in a hotel staying next to office, and we're like 30 days, no holiday. Basically, just ship more than 25 features with focus. This is the list. We have been thinking about launching these things for a long time, but next 30 days, basically, no vacation, no holiday, no basic distraction, and let's just ship this list completely. So I think that was incredibly helpful because of a few reasons now that we think. One is we actually ended up shipping close to 30 things, actually, because time bound, right?
Yes.
There's a deadline.
Yes.
Because we are engineers, so I think we realized that we are incredibly good at being late and studying one night before exam, basically, right?
Exactly.
So अब 30 दिन है.
तो रात को भी नहीं करेंगे.
Exactly, and everybody thought कि हाँ 30 दिन तो है. It's not like I'm living a long sad life and someday I will die, but just 30 days, right? And basically that was like a micro mission that we drove for the company. Second, we actually made a promise that next year we'll actually do this somewhere else in the world, like all engineers in one place. I don't know whether we'll fulfill that or not, but yeah. It was a good promise.
Yes.
So everybody like हाँ इस बार तो Bangalore है, next time तो Morocco भी हो सकता है.
Correct.
क्या पता Bangalore ही हो. But yeah, worked in our favor. But I think we also measured people and their sleep scores, their HRV, and their recovery scores during the sprint. Turns out,
don't tell me it was better.
People are better. People are sleeping earlier. क्योंकि कुछ है ही नहीं लाइफ में, सोशल लाइफ ही नहीं है, वीकेंड में पार्टी नहीं करनी है, रात को 10 बजे तक everybody is like out because of working, and then they wake up at like 8 a.m. because 9 a.m. if you don't show up for sprint, you have to do push-ups. That's and a lot of people did push-ups in the early days, and then basically they got addicted to it.
So they got
yeah. So we were chatting about this like just after the sprint, you guys were healthier by like 28% because we followed a schedule.
Correct.
a rhythm
Correct.
in terms of your life. So people told us कि हाँ वो सब ठीक है, but
Next day Morocco.
so that's where we were. So that
Right.
was helpful. So I think we would want to do more of these. Like, yes, life is ongoing, but then short bursts of like high energy sprints. That is helpful. Yeah.
What is the process of taking big bets at a for a product like Ultrahuman, and what is the role of a founder, product, hardware? How does all of that tie together? Like, how did, for example, you decide that you wanted to go from just wellness to a life-saving product? And what went into building conviction to doing that?
The origin of this was that this device measures your blood volume changes. It's called PPG, photoplethysmography, and it measures temperature changes continuously. It measures motion. Basically, if I'm moving my hand, 6-axis accelerometer exists on this device, measuring everything basically. And within these data streams, the PPG data stream was really interesting to us. Why? Because in the last 25 years of PPG technology being there, essentially every few years there has been a discovery that in the PPG waveform you could detect ABC. Few years ago, people discovered that there is a section of the PPG curve that tells you about respiratory rate, like how many breaths per minute do you take, and that is a marker of anxiety or health, essentially. Or even if you're sick, your respiratory rate will actually go up. It's an incredibly stable metric, but then when it goes up, most probably you're sick. Few years before that, people discovered that, of course, you could figure out something called heart rate variability, which is a marker of your nervous system, right? So essentially, it's a tone of your vagus nerve, and basically, if you're more parasympathetic or sympathetic, that you can figure by looking at the PPG curve. And then PPG curve also has 3 wavelengths. One is the red, and the infrared, and the green one. So naturally, red gets absorbed because of the blood in your arteries and capillaries, essentially, right? So when we started looking at this data stream, we discovered we were looking at studies associated with these data streams. Turns out like most of these studies have like an N of 250 people, 300 people, and we were like, ये तो हम रातों रात कर सकते हैं, because our N is like 10,000 people, 50,000 people, 100,000 people. So like we could, just by the population dynamics and of our user base, we could do so much more. Even if you don't have a clinically controlled environment, because that N of 250 had like a clinically controlled environment. So that's what we did. We said like, look, let's start on this journey of discovery, and then we looked at various medical devices and basically essentially what technology do they use and what kind of PPG analysis do they do and signal processing do these guys do, and then eventually arrived at that this life-saving technology out of PPG or this waveform could be incredibly useful because it could save lives way ahead of the event itself, like months ahead of the event. So you could go on a blood thinner, or basically even like fix your lifestyle, or basically speak to a doctor before the event actually happens. So that's why we thought that it is a technology worth investing in. There's one more that we started building along with it, which is still like slightly away from releasing, but it's linked to what we call as arterial stiffness. So you could detect how stiff your arteries are, because in your finger where these rings are, we have 2 arterioles. It's an incredibly useful place because these arterioles are like, if you wear a watch, like watch has capillaries, so like you don't have access to arteries, but you have access to, I mean, obviously real estate is much larger, but then arterial blood and arteries calcification or the suppleness of the artery has a lot more to tell about health. So that's what we were really interested in, and that's also in the PPG waveform.
So do these ideas come from the science team, or do these ideas come from just everybody in the company because they're so tuned into the world of science?
I think out of 125 people, almost 80-85 people read science on a daily basis. So they do come across with a lot of interesting concepts, and they also validate this with the science team. I think the science team is amazing at now understanding that these people are too stupid to say anything, uh, and then validating or not validating. But then our people essentially are basically great at thinking, yo, is this possible? Can we try this approach? To the extent that basically thinking about like, can we put a new type of chip to detect vitamin D on the device basically. So those are things that we have been trying to do that you will find in our production facility.
Got it. You've obviously had an amazing sort of diversity of experiences, everything from runner, which was also, to Zomato, to Ultrahuman, very diverse. What are some, and you at heart are you are a product person and a problem solver. What are some, if you had to think about things that have really worked for you and things that were habits that you followed but has not actually helped you in any way, or you just did it because somebody told you to do it, or you just did it because you did it. What would those be?
I think initially I read a lot of blogs and books about business, right? And I found it very very boring, unfortunately. Like, because for me, I felt like I was very far away from applying these principles, unless I have a large business. But this is when I started the business basically. I was like, "ठीक है, मतलब this is all good gyan, but then how do I apply this?"
Wow, fascinating. Cool. Guys, we have about 20 minutes for questions, and then you guys can all get to know each other well.
So an engineer wanted to कि यार इंडिया से फास्ट बॉलर्स नहीं होते हैं, होने चाहिए. Make sense? Right? So how do we create next generation of Bumrahs, but also like Wasim Akrams and Shoaib Akhtars and fast bowler चाहिए, मतलब वो adrenaline चाहिए. कैसे बनाए? Engineering use करके. This is like a dinner table conversation. Some engineers said कि यार हम तो बना रहे सब cool technology, but होना चाहिए ऐसा भी, है ना? मतलब अगर मेरे पास पैसे होते तो मैं ये करता लाइफ में. I would have done this. So I said, ठीक है, let's do it. So what we did was, so next morning we wake up and like basically I asked the engineer कि do you remember what you said yesterday? लेकिन हाँ, but वो तो टाइम पास था. लेकिन नहीं, but करना चाहिए फास्ट बॉलिंग. Just do it for fun because कितना पैसा लेंगे? मतलब let's figure out how can engineering change fast bowling, for example. So he said कि ठीक है, I know I follow someone on YouTube जो fast bowling सिखाता है, and basically he talks about like this thing called shin angle and talks about basically the kinematic sequence while you're bowling. So I know those markers, or those markers, if we make people access those markers, then we could actually potentially solve this problem, because India के हर नुक्कड़ और कोने में everybody could learn fast bowling just by looking at those markers. And it's like, ठीक है, cool. And he said like, by the way, Shark Tank में कंपनी भी आई है जिसने ऐसा कुछ प्रोडक्ट बनाया, तो we should talk to them. So we talked to the company, and the company was shutting down. So we picked the company up.
Oh, wow.
The company does biomechanics. And then we trained a fast bowling ML on top of it.
Wow.
Now, why I gave this example is because I don't think it will generate any revenue. ठीक है? But it was a cultural experiment to do for us. The company was shutting down, so it also did not cost us much. But it was a cultural thing to do, that you could come up with the next Gmail and you could do this. Obviously, we verified all the parameters of how expensive this experiment is. But I thought कि maybe एक बार करके देखते हैं experiment. So just few days ago, we did a fast bowling workshop by using the technology. All of us learned fast bowling basically, and we got ranked as a fast bowler. And basically, the guy was teaching us reverse swing and basically swing कैसे करना and all of that stuff basically, and all those principles. So whether this becomes a product in the future or not, we don't know. But I think just this fact got the engineering team to believe that I can also build something cool. I don't need to go out and build my own startup only to realize my dreams. I could build it here too. Obviously, if someone does that, we should be happy, because that's why I am happy in life, because I could start my own company. But selfishly, I want them to be here. I started writing started tweeting like basically randomly, and I got no traction because I had 300 followers. But I noticed a pattern. The pattern was that whenever I wrote about the science of the product and not the product, people liked and retweeted and promoted the tweet a lot more. So that's what I did. For a few days, I wrote about the science of the product and the research. And one of them actually went viral. One of them. We also
What
made
was
a-
special about that one?
I think it was a thread and it had a video which was very cryptic. So nobody knew what the hell it was. So people wrote in the wait list कि देख के अच्छा लगा, वो समझ में नहीं आया, ठीक है, which is cool, ठीक है, अच्छी बात है. And then
Was it by design or it just happened?
no, we hired a graphic designer who did not know what to do. That turned out to be good.
Yeah, exactly.
Best
hire you made.
Best hire we made. It's like हाँ ship हो गया. ये क्या है? हाँ ये क्या है? So we're all confused, but then it took off. So I've decided to be completely consumer about this. One reason is because it's a new experience. So generally insurance companies won't get this. We get a lot of insurance companies reaching out, ship us data, take $100,000, ship us data, take $50,000, ship us data, we'll do licensing. And we always say no, because like basically first engineers won't let us do that. They're like, क्या कर रहे हो, मतलब data, मतलब है ना, मतलब time मत waste करो. Even if you die, you'll die with glory. Second is basically कि this experience is new. So the monetization on insurance front is going to be very short term. There's one example where it is not short term. I'll give you one. So we just partnered with a company that basically does stroke management, stroke survivor management. Now that's completely different from what we do. But what they said was कि यार देखो, problem is they have 15,000 patients. They have a CPT code for insurance in the US. They get from these patients $200 a month reimbursed, which is a lot of money, by the way.
Correct.
Right, $2,400 a year basically. And the only intervention they provide is a on-called medical doctor. ठीक है? So they were like, यार, the problem is this: stroke patients, 70% of our stroke patients are dysfunctional in some ways. Right? Post-stroke, they are like, they're trying to find their way out. Now, there is no pharmaceutical answer to this.
Correct.
There's only a lifestyle answer to this. But I have no way to measure lifestyle. The only thing they do today is they send a form early in the morning to fill to the person who has had a stroke. How are you feeling today?
Great.
Right?
Better than
Do you-
yesterday.
And deduce basis that. And they were like, we could do so much more with this data of how they're sleeping, how they're moving, how much skin temperature they have, and what is their HRV. Like that's like that side of the world does not exist for them. So they're saying we will not use this for insurance reimbursement, but we'll pitch it as a retail outcome for them. Like buy it from us. It's not reimbursed. So that's where we're seeing like a really interesting overlap where lifestyle could be measured as well. Yeah. We view our TG as performance health. So I think the evolution of the platform was that the first few users of the platform were 25 athletes. That's how we started. And we realized that this science could be leveraged by every individual in the world. Because the science of physiology is the same.
Correct.
I need to work on my HRV, I need to work on my sleep, I need to work on my movement, I need to have optimal skin temperature. For the athlete, the thresholds are different. For me, the thresholds are different. That's the only difference basically. But we started selling to the athletes, and even today we position ourselves as a performance health platform because these are people who are taking proactive action. They are treating health as a performance marker in life, right? Most people don't. It's a new realization. Like how many of you would say that 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, sleep was a performance marker in life? Like very few, right? People used to basically say कि अच्छा 3 रात से सोया नहीं हूँ, बहुत सारी चीज़ें शिप की है मैंने. It's a matter of pride,
Correct.
right? या फिर पार्टी की है रात भर, what? It was also a matter of pride, basically, right? कि एक हफ्ते से सोया नहीं हूँ. I have not slept for a week. I have not slept for 15 days. It's a matter of pride. But now people have understood the importance of
Correct.
like this incredible process called sleep. So this is happening, right? And we believe that people will operate on a spectrum. Some athletes will obviously use this, and they'll create awareness about this. They'll validate the science, and then general health people will get inspired by it, and they'll probably try to give it a shot and think, "अच्छा ठीक है, for me also to measure my health is now important, because the best in the world are using it, right?" And I think for us it drives a lot of adoption in micro pockets. Like one example would be that we don't have a. By the way, we partnered with Liverpool FC, but we haven't paid them $1. How? Because we partnered with their coaches first. Because coaches have no limelight, so we gave them access to the product and the technology and the dashboards, and they gave it to the players. And then it's a silent partnership where they don't promote the brand, but those guys actually meet hundreds of people, powerful people every day. So we are getting access to hundreds of powerful people without basically having like a formal brand partnership. That's the micro pocket penetration that we actually want to have across the world. We need to do this like 100,000 times actually to create like a critical mass. But then that's broadly what we are thinking about our TG. Now the anomaly in this TG is AFib detection, which is preventive. But that is also not an anomaly. The idea obviously came because of the PPG waveform. The first place where we got this validated was with this team called Team Emirates. There's this cycling team called Team Emirates. They're the best cycling team in the world. So we went and spent like a half a day with their camp, with their coaches and the team, and they were like, one of the things that we would love for you two guys to solve is how do you do ECG on the ring? Like, why would you need an ECG? Like, these are like 22, 23-year-olds, incredibly fit cyclists. And like, no, because they operate very close to their max HR every day during training. So very high chance that their heart rhythm could be off. So we want a way to measure ECG on a regular basis through you guys. And we're like, that's interesting, because is this a common use case for all athletes? And turns out it is, especially for people who do cardiovascular conditioning. So that's how it emerged. Like that was the second validation, and then now, of course, like we're bringing it out to people.
Thanks everyone. Thanks for coming. I hope you guys enjoyed. I had a fabulous time.